Hello and welcome to the Farming Live podcast. At the Suffolk Show this year, Brian Barker and his team of stewards launched the Farming Live Ring, which brought moving farm machinery to the show for the very first time. The team also did live interviews with leading and inspiring people from the world of farming in Suffolk, and this podcast brings you one of those interviews. Today we'll hear from Alaistaire Brice from Havensfield Happy Hens, who spoke to me, Ben Eagle, on the Wednesday afternoon. Welcome everyone, this is Farming Live. I'm talking to Alaistaire Brice. Let's talk about eggs generally and the egg sector. How has demand for free-range eggs changed in the last few years?
Dramatically. I mean, free-range has been a huge booming sector within the agricultural industry for the last 15 years. If everyone can remember back to the 1980s when Edwina Currie said that all British eggs had salmonella, it decimated the market in a matter of weeks and forced a lot of farmers out of business. Those accusations were all incorrect, and in fact it was Spanish caged eggs that were coming into the UK that caused those problems. Since then, the UK government has put in stringent salmonella control programs to make our eggs now the safest in the world. The incidences of salmonella in the UK are negligible. So suddenly we've now got a really safe product, which on the back of that is now deemed as a superfood, which means that we've got a really good growing product which people are eating more and more of each year. And in fact it's now the younger generation which are coming back to eating eggs, which historically there's like a 20-year gap of a generation between 35 and 55 that remember the Edwina Currie incidents when they were young. So people are coming back to eat eggs because they're healthy, nutritious, and they're cheap. In terms of meal, they're so versatile. So we're quite fortunate to find a product which is very dynamic and on the up, and that enabled my business to grow with it.
And you're not just producing chicken eggs, you're also producing goose, duck and quail eggs.
That's right. Well, they're all the speciality sort of niche eggs, which goose eggs are seasonal. They only lay from Christmas Day till about the end of April, and then they stop laying for the rest of the year. Quail eggs are all year round and duck eggs are all year round, but those speciality eggs have really grown in popularity as people look for something different. And you go into pubs now and you see a duck egg on a bit of gammon steak and a portion of chips, and suddenly it's £18. It just uplifts the price. But you know, everyone wants to try something new now, and that's what we try to aim, is one-stop shop for eggs, really.
And talking about something new, you brought out recently a product which is taking innovation to new levels. Certainly, it's the liquid egg. Tell me about that.
Well, the liquid egg scenario came back from when we were having problems with bird flu about 3 years ago. We were very close to an AI hotspot near Diss, and that closed a number of our farms down, which meant that we had eggs that we couldn't move for a long period of time. And because those eggs couldn't be moved, they then couldn't be sold into retail because their best before was so short. So unfortunately I had to sell those eggs at a huge loss to a processor who then made them into liquid egg. Obviously with the bird flu problem, we didn't think it would dissipate like it has done in the last year, thankfully, but it's still here and there, it's still around, it's still a problem. So we went to look at some liquid egg plants in France, and in Europe, and especially in hot countries in Africa, a lot of the egg is used in a liquid or a dried format. They don't use shell egg like we do, and there's huge potential because in fact in the UK we import about 20,000 tonnes of liquid egg every 3 months into this country for processing, people like Mr. Kipling's cakes and what have you. So the fact is there's an opportunity. We've not necessarily got enough of the product to do it all ourselves in terms of as a country, but we are the only producers of liquid egg within 150 miles of here. We've only got a small plant. It costs an awful lot of money to get up and running, but the product is now selling to 30 or 40 customers and it's growing every week. So it's quite an exciting challenge, but I've gone from being a farmer to a food wholesaler to now a food producer, and that journey has really changed the way I look at my business because it's safeguarding it.
And lots of different hats with lots of different things to learn about. Of course, in agriculture there are lots of different areas that you can work in. What about the poultry sector generally, the egg sector? What opportunities are there for people to work in if they wanted to find out more?
Well, the poultry industry is a massive growing industry within East Anglia at the moment. We've got one of the biggest factories being built in the whole of Europe, in a processing plant on our airfield. We've got a whole number of free-range egg-laying units and broiler units surrounding East Anglia. So there's plenty of farms around here if you want to get involved. The problem is it's about being biosecure and having that level of competence when you step onto the farm. And realistically, I'd say anyone that wants to go and work on a poultry farm, they probably need to go and do a little bit of background work and volunteering on some small-scale units to get an understanding of what goes on before they go in there, or go onto a poultry course at a local college. But the farms have evolved and they've become bigger and bigger and bigger, which actually makes it harder for new people to come onto the farm straight away. When I was younger, you could literally walk onto 20 farms and they'd give you a summer job. Now it's very difficult with health and safety.
One question that we're asking everyone today, what advice would you give to someone who is interested in entering agriculture? How would you start if you were going to advise them?
Okay, well you've got to love it first. You've got to love agriculture. You've got to have a real desire to want to do it. It's 7 days a week. There are no normal hours, different weathers. I'm not trying to put anyone off, but you've got to love what you're doing. Otherwise, don't do it, because it's a passion. It is a career, and it's a great career. And actually, if you look at it now in terms of remuneration and what people are earning out of these sorts of jobs, they're actually very well paid. And those that are good can climb the ladder very quickly.
Let's talk about welfare and welfare in the poultry sector, because it's something that is taken incredibly seriously. It's a topic that is on people's lips as well. In your business, how are you ensuring high welfare?
Okay, well, all our birds are free range, firstly. So all our birds are stocked to European legislation, but in fact we interpret the UK legislation, which is better than the European legislation. So all our birds are free range. We're constantly looking and evolving to try and help and create better environments for those birds. And if you look at the poultry industry now, the UK egg industry has got the largest free range flock of any country in the whole world. And that's down to the public buying into the perception of what free range eggs are and what it gives to the chicken.
Yeah.
So the chickens, not all chickens go out to range, but they have the choice. And what we try and do is plant trees in the range to make it more of a natural environment, to create, they are a jungle bird after all, so they want shade, they want security, so we try and get them out into the range, get them onto the grass and get them as far away from the buildings as possible by enrichment. Inside the buildings we put in toys and different things to give them things to climb on. We give them pecking blocks, we change their feeds, so you're constantly trying to keep them entertained. So in terms of welfare, whether it's pig, beef, lamb, pork, eggs, we have the best welfare in the world.
You're obviously diversifying your product range, but over the next few years, where do you see your business going? What are your aspirations moving forwards?
I think going forward now, we've reached a size where we're nearly 200,000 birds, and that's probably within what me and my wife can cope with as a business and 25 employees. If we pushed on and went bigger, then we'd have to be talking to the likes of Tesco's and Sainsbury's and Morrison's, and I've seen too many other people go and knock on that door, get through it, to only be kicked back out of it 6 months later, and they build their business up and it crashes. And we've built organically over 16, 17 years gradually with our customer base, and what that's enabled us to do is focus on quality, and from that it means that every customer we take on, we very rarely lose them, and so we carry on building the business with small blocks, and we'll see where it takes us. But certainly the liquid egg market and the speciality eggs have grown significantly over the last 2 years since we started doing them, and I can see that being the biggest growth area.
Quick word on farming policy. Let's have some policy chat. It's quite an intriguing time in ag at the moment in terms of we could be going in different directions. What's the news on the ground in terms of the poultry sector, in terms of how current policy might be changing and how that might impact on the poultry sector?
Well, we're a bit fretful, to be honest, at the moment, because as I just said, we've built a whole production system which is the highest welfare in the world, and with that comes cost. So if it comes to the point where we leave the EU and end up on WTO agreement, we are then potentially going to allow less quality, less welfare friendly meat and eggs into the UK, undermining our price, which will then land on the supermarket shelves and erode us as British farming. And unfortunately it won't happen overnight, but over a gradual period of time that will erode the welfare systems that we've put in place over the last 20 years. and what everyone's bought into. And I think it's a shame, because a lot of the general public see food as a second thing after going out and new cars and all those sorts of things. Food is for UK security, it has to be made more of a priority, and the government, whoever's in it, I don't, no political allegiance, but whoever comes in to lead us through the next 5-6 years must appreciate what we as farmers do to put food on the table for British people, and they've got to safeguard that. And that doesn't mean subsidies, because we can't take out what we don't put in, but what it does mean is we have to have security to make sure that if we're being told to produce high welfare, we need to be safeguarded against cheaper, lower, inferior product coming in and undermining that product.
How do people find out more about the Havensfield brand?
Well, I mean, we're throughout Suffolk in many independent shops and retailers. We've got 700 customers throughout the county. We're also in Norfolk. We've got a website, Havensfield Happy Hens. Go on there, you'll read a lot about what we do and how we do it and what products we offer.
This podcast was a Thinking Country production. The producer was Ben Eagle, the music was by Black Rom, and the chief organiser of Farming Live was Brian Barker.